Hey folks, welcome to B5 Bricks. Hope you're all well. In today's video, it's a wee blather about the adult LEGO range, and this comes off the back of the latest adult targeted advertisement published by LEGO kinda in the run up to Valentine's Day. So I'm going to discuss this and more importantly chat about the future of adult LEGO. And the reason I want to talk about it is because this is a really interesting sign of things to come in the next decade, as we see a much bigger percentage of LEGO Group's marketing budget and strategy devoted to it. So it's great if you can watch until the end, and if you enjoy this video, don't feel obliged to subscribe. I honestly just love to get a bit of engagement and encouragement that you did indeed enjoy it, so just leave me a like and a comment if you've got time. Now, I find it quite funny and disappointing that people are criticising LEGO in their comments section for featuring so much diversity and also 2 women on a date. Like, oh no, equality and representation, for God's sake, they've got their vote and now they're building my LEGO and being all gay with it. I mean, that is mental. But I take it on board that it is a bit on the nose and sort of trying too hard to tick all the boxes. LEGO is totally virtue signalling here, and that's fine, but I was half expecting the waiter at the restaurant to appear in a wheelchair. But I have an inclination that, the middle earning white male market is pretty solid for LEGO. We don't need to be advertised to anymore. And they've done it so nicely with this ad. I like it, and I really like the concept of the ad as well. The basic premise: LEGO have sent 6 strangers out on first dates with a LEGO set. Brilliant! I really like this nod to what is also appealing about LEGO, which is not just the build and the final set, but the conversation, the fun. It's an activity which is an experience, and dates should be like that. Going for a meal, going to a show, seeing a band or a magician or a comedian. But this ad is a little bit too contrived. I mean, where are they? Luckily there's no one else around in this nightclub bar. I mean, how random is that one? In the next scene, are they going to get drunk and have a dance afterwards? They'll be in a queue for a kebab later with a bonsai tree in their hand and drop it in the back of their Uber as they fall out. Obviously, it's just an advert, but you know what? A lot of people these days do connect over hobbies and interests, and increasingly over LEGO. And I'm no exception. My wife and I have bought each other LEGO sets for over 10 years. We build the bigger sets together, like the modulars, and one of my favourites was the Disney Castle. And more recently, we've done the wall art sets. It's a lovely, fun experience to share in, and that's what LEGO is really trying to convey to a wider market, especially women and adults who don't have children. And we both enjoy pop culture in general, and of course with all the TV and Hollywood movie remakes these days, and stuff from our childhood constantly reappearing and getting relaunched and repackaged, there's now a plethora of LEGO sets which are harking back with nostalgia. And I think a lot of people have discovered this recently with a few sets in particular. The Ideas Friends Central Perk set, 123 Sesame Street, the Nintendo NES console, and the 1989 Batmobile and Batwing. Giants of pop culture with quite broad appeal and massive fan bases. And these sets, alongside the pandemic, have brought a huge number of new people to the hobby. On top of that is also the ever-growing modular fan base as well. And as a long-time collector, I started in 2009, and I'm amazed at how this has exploded during just even the last year. It's great, but it is frustrating because things keep selling out. But LEGO went mental with the adult range in 2020, and it shows no sign of stopping. And this ad is firming that up, especially to adults who don't have children. And the whole thing in the ad says, adults welcome. Yeah, well, they always have been. But I think the image that springs to mind for most people over the last 20 years at least has absolutely been Lord's business. And Will Ferrell played that perfectly, this controlling middle-aged dude in his basement, and that is so stereotypical. But if you look at most LEGO conventions and all the contributors to magazines and YouTubers and Instagrammers that have dominated the LEGO community in the recent past, a lot of them are just like me, middle-aged dudes, a bit like Will Ferrell's character. When I was a kid, I used to go to model railway shows with my mum. I loved it, but I always noticed it was like 99% old retired dudes a bit like Lord Business who were doing it. Trains were not a cool mainstream thing, and Lego for adults certainly wasn't either. But that's all changed now, and even model railways have as well. It's found a new lease of life online and on TV with people who always had this incredible ingenuity, craft and engineering skills but had no outlet to showcase it other than at these meetups and conventions. Now the online community has broadened the hobby to a whole new generation and increasingly more women as well. And Lego is maybe trying to shake off this very stereotypical sensibility of white dudes building huge city layouts in their basements or their attics, and I am one of those people, and I recognise that I am one of thousands of Lego YouTube channels, which is essentially a white dude building Lego, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a white dude. It's quite hard considering 96.2% of the population of Scotland, where I live, is white, and the next largest ethnic group are people of Asian descent at just 2.6%, so media and advertisers mostly feature white folks. And given that Lego is an intrinsic part of most Scottish kids' childhood, especially for my generation that grew up in the 80s and 90s, it's just a very normal thing for most people to have had a very fond experience with Lego, and therefore it's no wonder that a lot of adult white people in these countries make most of the content. But Lego will never grow and expand further unless it strives to open up into new markets who are more diverse and don't necessarily have an ingrained relationship with Lego as a toy as a part of society from the past. And it's one of LEGO Group's main priorities. If you read their annual reports for the last 10 years, they want to expand into Asia and Africa further. They want to be more affordable in places like India, the Far East and much of Africa, and they want to expand into other demographics in their core markets like Europe and North America. This means as well that more children around the world will have more opportunity to be exposed and play with LEGO. It'll be more affordable and show more variety in its themes. On top of that, they know another big untapped market is growing beyond that 8 to 10% of adult sales. And you heard that right, adult sales are only between 8 to 10% of total sales. So they really want to expand that, and the best place to start is in those key established markets like Europe and North America. So that certainly means more tie-ins to popular culture like Central Park, the Ecto-1 and the Batwing. But more so, it's these innovative sets like the bonsai tree, the idea sets like the grand piano and the Colosseum, and therefore they will be targeting more women and much more cosmopolitan and diverse markets. And part of that is promoting LEGO as an aspirational product. It's a Mercedes, it's quality, it's desirable, a lifestyle brand sensibility. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of Instagram influencers plugging the adult range in the next 10 years. As it's going to be dominated by the adult market, as LEGO attempts to diversify its range further to encompass this broad range of adult interests and subject matter. If I think back to when I got into LEGO, the architecture range was still kinda in its infancy, but it was going pretty strong. Star Wars was only 10 years old, and the UCS sets were okay. Modulars were still just kind of taking off, and the other big creator modular sets were few and far between. It was quite niche, and it was generally expensive. And in the last 10 years, this has just completely changed. Ideas, in particular, has exploded and given rise to a few cheaper adult-oriented sets, and it's amazing to see what's happened to LEGO and the growth in the adult community. I think we're going to see a lot more innovation aimed at adults, and I think we're going to see some mega sets as well, like the Colosseum. I wouldn't be surprised if they release like $1,000 Khufu Pyramid or the Sphinx or a Machu Picchu set. You know, we haven't seen anything yet. I reckon this is going to become a golden age of adult LEGO sets. And you know, this will possibly sadden a lot of existing fans. It's a bit like discovering a quirky band as a teen, and you go see them perform at small venues and support them for years, and then they get a hit and suddenly they're mainstream, and you see middle-aged mums wearing their t-shirts, or like young lassies with 70s and 80s band t-shirts they've never heard of, and it's not quite as cool anymore. but actually I think it'll be a bit different for LEGO. A lot of the new people who just got into it during the pandemic will probably lose a bit of interest and time to devote to it when they're back at work. But equally, a lot won't. And as these new fans eventually stop posting endless pictures of all the new sets they've bought and actually start exploring their own skills and building mocks, they become just like us, who have been doing this for years and enjoying and sharing new creations, which is what it should be about anyway. So yeah, I love the idea of going on a date and building Lego, but I'd be well annoyed if it didn't work out and she ended up with the £50 bonsai tree that I brought along, and I also had to pay the restaurant bill as well. I think if you've just got into LEGO in the last year, then it's probably the best experience ever. There's so much choice. There's so many possibilities and outlets of creativity on YouTube, Pinterest and Instagram, and city building has never been more interesting and creative. It's also been a great stress reliever in difficult times, and I hope new fans continue with this great hobby and that they find a way of sharing it with their partner, family and friends too, because LEGO is cool and it's cool to be into LEGO. What do you think of the adult range? Are you excited about the future of it? Are you concerned that it's maybe a bit expensive though? And why are things like 123 Sesame Street included in the range? I'd love to know what you think, so leave a comment. And do you think it's quite nice that LEGO made an inclusive ad with a bit of diversity? Or does it annoy you more that it features the bloody bonsai tree which is always sold out? If you enjoyed this video, don't feel obliged to subscribe like I said. I honestly just want to get a bit of engagement and encouragement that you did indeed enjoy it, so just leave me a like and a comment. But for more content like this, then if you do subscribe to the channel and click the notifications bell icon, you can stay up to date with all my videos, with mocks, money saving tips and my micro Gotham City updates too. So go ahead and subscribe, and whilst you're here, why not check out some of my other videos too, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!